We're going to go over a 4-round rookie mock draft that was sent in by a subscriber. This one's 1 QB. We're going over all 4 rounds. We're going to do a review, and we're going to try and do this every day this week and going forward until we're done drafting the rookies. And that might be a while, but we're going to make sure you got a good feel of the markets. We're going to go pick by pick, covering the values, covering what I think, and everything else. Also, I'm going to be dropping more rankings tomorrow for wide receivers, running backs, and possibly overall, if not coming out the next day. You need to click that subscribe button right now because we're talking about these rookies nonstop until our rookie drafts are done, and we're going to try and get you set straight. But we're going to start off with this rookie draft. Remember, it's 1 QB. We're going to go over the 101 pick here. The first player off the board, and I think you know who it is. It is Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm keeping the visuals lean and mean today. That way we can get as many mock drafts ran as possible. Marvin Harrison Jr., top-tier asset, generational talent, paired with a good quarterback. He's going to be getting opportunities early in his career. He should be, considering he's Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to get top-tier draft capital in Superflex and 1 QB drafts. Look for him to be the big guy coming off the board in all your leagues. But now we're going over to the 102 pick, the second player off the board. Remember, this is 1 QB. So I think you know who it's going to be, who's coming off the board, because it's the next generational talent. And usually you don't get more than one generational talent in a class, especially at the same position. But it happened this year. Malik Nabers to the Giants, and he is going at the 102 pick in this draft. He's got deep ball playmaking ability. Danny Dimes is going to target him downfield. Upside for days. Sick release package. Sick at the catch points. I look for him going 102, 101 in almost all 1 QB drafts. Super flex, he's up there. He's up there. I can see him usurping some quarterbacks, especially if you're really into Malik Nabers and down on some of those quarterbacks. That just makes a lot of sense. And if you want to do that, go ahead. Your team. So might as well make the right picks there of who you want on your team. But we're going over to the 103 now. Next player off the board. Kind of a surprise pick here. But we're looking at Xavier Worthy of the Chiefs. And usually this is Odunze. But the thing about this pick is this makes sense if you're looking for the short term, if you're looking for a player that will or more than likely increase value early in the season, especially once we get closer into training camp to the start of the season, because Xavier Worthy is going to be on the Chiefs. He's got that Chiefs privilege. Runs a 4.2 40-yard dash, fastest 40-yard dash ever at the history of the NFL Combine. First-round draft capital, the perfect situation for every wide receiver in this class. And he got it. He got it. He's at the 103. I see him catching this draft capital in a lot of leagues. I do. I see him usurping Odunze a lot. Or it's going to be Odunze. It's between those two players. That being said, I bet you know who's the next player coming off the board. We're looking at Odunze for the Chicago Bears, and Odunze's got a lot of upside still. He's paired with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is going to chuck the ball downfield. We're kind of roster clogged right now with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, but we're not too worried about that for the long term. I think Odunze is a tremendous talent. He's got tremendous upside. I think at 104 in this draft, I think that's a tremendous value. I flip-flop between him and Worthy a lot, but I like Odunze. I'll always like Odunze. And I think being paired with Caleb Williams is not a bad thing, because I think Caleb Williams, he's either going to go nuclear or nothing. And the odds of him going nuclear is pretty good compared to most quarterbacks. And you got Odunze there, and he's got a lot of upside, good size adjusted athleticism, good ball skills. But we got to move on to our next player. Next player coming off the board at the 105 spot, and that is Brock Bowers. Could be a big cog at the tight end spot for your team, considering the size adjusted athleticism, the speed, the yards after the catch. Going to the Raiders, and over time, within the next year or so, he's going to be the main pass catcher on that team. That's going to give this team plenty of upside in the passing game. That being said, if he hits, if he develops quickly, you could have a game changer for your fantasy lineup. Moving on to the next pick here at the 106. And we got Caleb Williams coming off the board here. And this is where I see him go in a lot of drafts. Middle of the first round. Not too surprised considering the draft capital. Considering the odds of him hitting. A lot of people are juiced up for him. Caleb Williams in a 1 QB league though. Strategy-wise, I have to really be hurting a quarterback because there's running backs still on the board. There's still wide receivers on the board. I have to be hurting a quarterback. If not, I'm moneyballing the position with the other quarterbacks in rounds 2 and 3 or so in 1 QB leagues. That being said, off to the next pick here, 107, Jonathan Brooks. First running back off the board. I think this is a great spot for him. Mid to late part of the first round, you're getting one of the top running backs in the draft, if not the running back in the draft to get. This is my top running back in terms of talent. The ACL injury is the big question mark. Also, we're going to Carolina, who is retooling. You don't know what the offense is really going to be ran like here in the next couple of years, but I expect him to get a boatload of touches going forward. But now we're moving on to our next pick. Next player coming off the board at the 108, Jaden Daniels. I think this is too rich for a quarterback. I think Caleb Williams was too rich earlier. Jaden Daniels is a good talent. I like him better for Superflex. I like him better in the second round of 1 QB leagues. But I do think there's some upside here. But there's running backs on the board who have draft capital. There's still some wide receivers left on the board. I like him around 201 to 205, maybe even later than that, because there are some backup running backs that you can play with and some other wide receivers with talent that you can play with. But again, in a 1 QB league, you're kind of fading the quarterbacks a little bit because there are quarterbacks left on the waiver wire unless it's a deeper league. Jaden Daniels, though, he's got some upside. He's got some goods to his game. He could hit with Washington. We got Terry McLaurin there, so I'm going to be getting opportunities. Superflex is to the moon, one of the top picks in the draft. Moving on to our next player coming off the board at the 109, Trey Benson. I think he can go a little earlier, and you can push with him on Jonathan Brooks. I flip back and forth with those running backs a lot. I did the rankings yesterday, and I think I had Benson over Brooks, and I think Benson's good for the now. I think Brooks is good if you want to be patient, depending on how you want to play. I think 109 is a great value for him, 4.39 speed. He's going to be getting a lot of touches in Arizona. He's going to be getting a lot of opportunity. I think this is a great spot for Trey Benson in Arizona. I think this is a great spot in rookie drafts to snag him. I think this is a good value. Next player off the board, though, coming down at the 110 spot, Ladd McConkey. I think this is a little bit of a reach here at the 110 spot. There's other wide receivers I like. There's some running backs I may want to take a shot on. At 110, this is a slower-paced offense. They're trying to retool things. I look for him to get opportunities early, though, so he will be on the field. Ladd McConkey's a good separator, but I like him more in like the early second round or so. I think there are a few players that would probably take over him. I feel like the 110's a little too rich for my blood. Considering the fragility of this offense, I could be wrong, but I just don't trust a hardball offense to really go nuclear, especially starting things off. But this next guy off the board I will take over Ladd McConkey pretty easy, and that's Keon Coleman. I was down on him going into draft season or during draft season, and I said he needed to go to the right spot. But I didn't push him down the rankings because I knew that if he went to the right spot, I'd have to put him back up. He went to the right spot. Josh Allen, perfect quarterback fit for him. 111, I think that's a cheap get. I think that's very cheap. I would pay more than the 111 in a 1 QB league for Keon Coleman. I like the upside there. We covered him earlier today in a video just talking about him. His ADOT is nuclear, and then Josh Allen has a nuclear ADOT as well. Third in the league last year of deep ball attempts. Third in the league last year, making him the perfect pair with Keon Coleman, giving these two a lot of upside. But we got to move on to our next pick. We got another good wide receiver coming off the board. Brian Thomas Jr. being paired with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was like 5th or so in deep ball attempts. He's also one of the most accurate passers on deep ball attempts according to PFF, but Brian Thomas Jr., he's going to command air yards. He's going to command the deep ball. This could be a good marriage. This is something Trevor Lawrence needed. I imagine Trevor Lawrence is going to push the ball a little bit more downfield because you got him and Davis there. But Brian Thomas Jr. is in a great spot here. Low-key good spot. And 112 for a first-round wide receiver. That's cheap. A first-round wide receiver from LSU who was productive last year that can stretch the field and has a good quarterback. That's a cheap pick. That is a good discount there. I like him at the 112. I'm drafting him there every single draft. But to recap round 1 here, very interesting. Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Nabers, Xavier Worthy, Odunze. So Odunze versus Worthy, and then Brock Bowers after that. Caleb Williams, 106. I think you should go wide receivers and running backs still. Jaden Daniels, same opinion there. Trey Benson, Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas. Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas ahead of Ladd McConkey for me, especially in 1QB, especially in all rookie drafts. I like them better. I think they got more upside. But we're moving on to round 2. Who do you think is going to fall in this round? The 201 pick, though, is Xavier Legette, 201. Good size, adjusted athleticism, drafted in the first round. Might be a little too rich here. I would like him a little bit cheaper, but still an alright selection considering there's upside. The downside's grand, so you're shooting for the moon here. Next, coming off the board here, Jalen Polk, 202 to the Patriots. Good draft capital, but the transition for the offense for the Patriots makes things a little dicey, a little iffy. You got Drake May there. But again, I don't know if you want to wait long enough for that at this price tag, considering there's running backs on the board, considering there's more upside on the board at wide receiver that you could look at. But still, moving on to the 203. Roman Wilson comes off the board, going to Pittsburgh, round 3 wide receiver. The draft capital's not there, but we know the talent, we know the separation, we know the speed. Paired with George Pickens, Russell Wilson should be the starter, but it could be Justin Fields. Quarterback situation could be dicey. Roman Wilson has a lot of talent. He looks like a Steeler, but the thing about this, I think the price is a little high. Now we're moving on to the next pick at 204, Drake May. This is the right spot for a quarterback. I'd rather have one of the other 2 quarterbacks at this price tag, but someone's going to pull the trigger on Caleb Williams, the name cachet and all that. But 204 for a quarterback like Drake May is fine. He's a great talent. First-round talent coming out of the draft. We were calling him a first-rounder when he started being the starter at North Carolina. So it makes sense that he earns this draft capital and that you're looking at the Patriots and you're like, man, this team's transitioning. They're rebuilding. This doesn't look fun. So you're catching him at a little bit of a discount. But there's still players at other positions I like better on the board. Going to the next pick here, Ricky Pearsall at 205. People hate this pick for the Niners, but at 205, you're catching a first-round wide receiver. Probably has about a 50 to 60% hit rate due to the first-round draft capital at 205. There are other players I do like on the board still at running back, but Ricky Pearsall going to the Niners, you got to watch what they do with Brandon Ayuk. There's a lot of rumors about that. There are rumors about Deebo Samuel. Are they making some moves? Are they not? Niners fans, you caught yourselves a good wide receiver. I'll say that much. Moving on to the next pick here. 206, Blake Corm. Solid running back prospect. Very dependable. He's going to eat into Kyren Williams' workload. Eventually usurp him. He's going to eventually be the starting running back here for the Rams. He will be the main guy within a couple years, maybe back half of the season, could be sooner than later. He's just like Kyren Williams, but faster. He's going to earn that spot. He's going to earn that role. I wouldn't mind taking him a little sooner. I wouldn't mind. I am pushing running backs up the board a little bit, especially the top 5 or so, because of the trade fragility I can do with them if they start to pop. Blake Corum, if he starts to hit, he'll go nuclear and trade value. Next player coming off the board here, 207, Germaine Burton, paired with Joe Burrow and company. They got some issues contract-wise with the wide receivers, especially T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd's gone. You could see Germaine Burton being one of the main wide receivers in the offense. stretches the field. He's explosive. 207, not a bad gamble, but he could be a guy that could be a landmine for you as well because he was not the greatest prospect. I like his deep ball ability, but I like him to be stronger at the catch point. Moving on to our next pick, Jaylen Wright at 208. This is a heavy discount. I would take him almost in the back end of the first, early second. He's got a lot of speed. He's in the right situation. Mostert's not going to be the starter forever. That's just not going to be. Devin Achane got banged up, twice at least last year? Jaylen Wright's going to be getting some opportunities with the Dolphins. One of the most potent offenses in football, and you're going to fade him to 208, and he got okay draft capital, good enough. You're going to see him get work in this backfield. 4.3 speed, good size, adjusted athleticism. You can use them between the tackles and plus much more. Moving on to the next pick here at 209. Aden Mitchell comes off the board. I think this is a great discount for him. I'm starting to come around on him due to this situation. Kind of fell in the draft a little bit. That's okay, not too far. But Michael Pittman's there is going to soak up target share. Aden Mitchell, though, is going to get air yards. He runs slippery routes. He can create separation. I can definitely tell you that. I think he can earn target share there. And on top of that, say it's just 18 to 20% target share. He's going to command like a 12-8 dot. And he's going to get deep balls. And that's going to pair well with Richardson. That's going to allow Pittman to work a lot easier. And I think he's just going to have splash games, splash performances. It's going to be up and down. I like volatility in wide receivers too, because when in doubt, put them in your lineup and close your eyes. But at 210, next player coming off the board, Troy Franklin falls to the 4th round of the real NFL draft to the Denver Broncos, paired with Bo Nix. And this is a depth chart that's pretty cleared out. Could be the starter soon. Could be running routes at a high participation rate soon, which could allow him to jump in value. I'm seeing him go a little higher in drafts, but those are mock drafts with no money on the line. I think there's money on the line in this draft. 210's not bad. I've seen him go 205, 204, 203. People with that take lock. 210's cool. I like him a shade cheaper. But when I look at the depth chart, I can definitely see him moving up the depth chart. And I can't see the Broncos messing around in free agency because they're not going to have the cap space in the future. That's something to pay attention to. But we're moving on to 11. And we're looking at Tez Walker going to the Ravens. I'm completely out. I'm out. How is he going to be a big-time prospect with the Ravens in Dynasty if they do not throw it enough? We got Zay Jones there. Rashad Bateman re-signed. I'm out. Moving on to the 212 pick, the final pick in the second round. Malachi Corley comes off the board, going to be the slot receiver there. Could be a volatile option there with the Jets, considering Garrett Wilson's going to own like a 25 to 30% target share. Aaron Rodgers is going to spam those targets to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's going to get a lot of targets. And then we also got Breece Hall, and behind him a bunch of good running backs. Malachi Corley is going to get some opportunities. He's going to be the slot guy, but maybe not enough for him to be uber productive. Recapping the second round, Xavier Legette, spelled it wrong, typo. Jalen Polk, Roman Wilson, Drake May, Ricky Pearsall, Blake Corum, Germaine Burton, Jaylen Wright, Aden Mitchell, Troy Franklin, Tez Walker, another misspelling on me, Malachi Corley, Germaine Burton in the middle of the second round is very interesting. I think Jaylen Wright fell too far. Aden Mitchell, very cheap. I think there's a ton of upside there. Ricky Pearsall for a first-round wide receiver at the 205 pick is very interesting. I think a lot of people is going to fade him. You can catch him for deals. Troy Franklin, watch him in your drafts. Do not spend 205 or more, but 210 or later is okay, I believe, if you like Troy Franklin. I do like the landing spot. Malachi Corley depends if he can gel with Aaron Rodgers. But we're moving on to round 3. Who's fallen off the board that you're trying to get in the third round here? Who are you looking at? Let's go to that first pick, J.J. McCarthy. Perfect spot for a quarterback in 1 QB leagues. First pick, third round, middle third round, early third round. That's where I want to do it. Late second round, fine. This is where I want to pull the trigger on my quarterbacks. J.J. McCarthy, best value among all the quarterbacks on the board, 1 QB league. Considering in 1 QB leagues, you can play the waiver wire with the quarterback position. J.J. McCarthy's got a lot of upside. He's got a lot of weapons there. But we're going to our next pick. 302, Jatavian Sanders, JT Sanders coming off the board. I think they lit their pick on fire with this one. I don't like it. I think there's other players I'd rather have in the middle of the third round that's coming off the board here. We're just going to keep rolling. 303, Javon Baker. So in the third round, he's fine here. Second round's too rich for my blood. I would like him middle or late third, where some of these running backs are used up more in the draft. But it's fine. There's some upside. If Drake May hits, Baker could be the one hitting. He's got a lot of upside. I know they drafted Jalen Polk, but he's very talented. He could usurp Polk. This is a very deep wide receiver class. Wide receivers are going to be diluted down. Wide receivers are going to splooge into the fourth round. Javon Baker's got some upside here. I'm not banking on it, but they're not either because it's the 303. 304 pick, Bucky Irvin. So these backup running backs I like because when the incumbent, the starter, gets hurt, you can use them as trade pieces if they start getting touches as a starter for a couple games. Trade them, get a second-round pick, first-round pick, whatever happens for Bucky Irvin, because those backup running backs aren't going to hold their value, especially when the starter comes back. But you can gain value on your team by trading Bucky Irvin for a second, late first, a prospect that you really like, whatever. When he starts getting touches, a good player to hoard too for the short term and long term. 305, Will Shipley. I like him on the Eagles. Saquon Barkley has an injury history. If he gets nicked up for a couple games, Will Shipley's going to see an increase in value, or you can use Will Shipley for the production because he will be an RB1 for that instant, because there's no one really going to take the touches away from him. He's good in the passing game, and you could trade him away for a good clip if Saquon misses some time. Marshawn Lloyd to the Packers, a third-round running back prospect with good size, adjusted athleticism. People are scared of Josh Jacobs and the situation, but talent and situation is something you need to look at here. Always draft talent over situation here. 306, this is a great value. I would like him a few picks earlier. I'd pull the trigger on him because if Josh Jacobs gets hurt, Marshawn Lloyd's getting opportunities. And if that happens, his value goes up. I could sell him. Or something happens in the short term to Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd just goes off. That's something you want. I want pieces of the Packers offense right now. It's firing on all cylinders. I'm not scared of Marshawn Lloyd, especially at this price tag. Ben Sinnott at 307. Tight end going in the middle of the third round. 307 is a better price for the tight end spot. I think there might be other players left on the board that I'd rather have at wide receiver and running back. Jacob Cowling at 308. Not really in on him. I'm in on him as a prospect, but the situation needs to open up a little bit more. But good breakout age, good production with two different collegiate programs. 309, Brendan Rice to the Chargers. We're just burning picks on fire at this point. At this point of the draft, you need to trade out if you're trying to make these decisions. Trade out to 2025. Try and get next year's third and a little something. If it's possible, next year's second. I've seen it happen, but at 309, with how diluted it is in the draft, that shouldn't be a high probability deal. Next year's third, add a prospect, get a prospect, do something. But if you're drafting 7th round wide receivers at 309, you need to have some help. At 310, Audric Estime, drafted in the 5th round to the Broncos. I can definitely see a pathway to opportunity here. Backup running back. Running backs get hurt, so if he does get an opportunity, he could be a trade asset for you. Or a guy that you use for the production. I do like him as a running back. I do like him for his size, his vision, and the way he moves laterally at 310. This is a great price tag for a 5th round running back who's going to be a backup, but could see some opportunities somewhere down the line. Ray Davis, I think he's going to be a good fit in this offense. He's at 311 here. I think this is a great value. I would rather have him early 3rd round, early mid-ish of the 3rd round. But him, James Cook, and this is a fast-paced offense that's trying to retool on the fly, considering what happened at the wide receiver position. He's going to grind it between the tackles. That backup running back spot really did the Bills dirty last year. They need to get better. Ray Davis could be a sneaky get here at 311. Last pick of the 3rd round, Jalen McMillan. Logjam depth chart. Might be lighting a pick on fire here. A little bit too late in the draft on the draft capital, but going to the Bucks. We got older wide receivers there. They get nicked up. He could be seeing an opportunity, but 312, you're not hating anybody at that price tag. Here's the 3rd round. J.J. McCarthy, J.T. Sanders, Javon Bakers, Bucky Irvin, Will Shipley, Marshawn Lloyd, Ben Sinnott, Jacob Cowling, Brendan Rice, Audric Estime, Ray Davis, Jalen McMillan. Typical third round. I like Audric Estime. I like the running backs. Ray Davis, too, at 311. JT Sanders is a little bit too rich for my blood. Javon Baker's got upside. I like him a little cheaper. Bucky Irving, I like him. And maybe even 301, 302. Will Shipley, same thing. Marshawn Lloyd, I'm not afraid of him. But we're moving on to the fourth round here. Let's go through this quick. 401, Isaac Grando. We got speed. We got upside. Something happens to Christian McCaffrey. Could be wheels up. 402, Luke McCaffrey. I'm out. 403, Dylan Labe catching passes out of the backfield. We got some fragility there. The running backs in front of him are not pass catchers. 4-4, Braylon Allen. The mighty has fallen. We got Breece Hall in front of him. He's a good running back prospect, but he's not the only good running back prospect that they drafted. 4-5, Michael Penix. You're taking quarterbacks here, but Michael Penix is going to be sitting for a bit. 406, Bo Nix. I'd take him ahead of Penix because of the opportunity. You also got Troy Franklin there. They're saying, hey, we're invested in you. We're trying to get you skill players that you're used to. At 406, 1 QB, it doesn't hurt. Rasheen Ali to the Ravens, 407. Sure, if something happens to Derrick Henry, sure. 408, Anis Smith, no. 409, Johnny Wilson, I'm in here because the upside, if he converts to tight end, that could be a big get for you. 410, Spencer Rattler. This is the spot to get a quarterback if you got room, if this is a deep enough roster. Cool, because he's going to be a backup for a bit, but could be getting an opportunity later. I love him in Superflex around the late second, early third. 411, Malik Washington. Dolphins privilege. Could have some upside after a couple years. 412, Tyrone Tracy. Might get some upside here if he gets some opportunity, if the injury bug hits the depth chart. But here's the recap of the fourth round. Grando, McCaffrey. I'm out on McCaffrey. I just don't see the upside, but 402, I guess it's fine. Dylan Labe, I'd take over McCaffrey. Braylon Allen, I'd take over McCaffrey. Bo Nix, yeah. Rasheen Ali, yeah, but I'd rather have like Spencer Rattler, Johnny Wilson, Tyrone Tracy, Malik Washington, a splendid, a very good wide receiver prospect that the Dolphins grabbed. 411 maybe if he gets some opportunity, but he's a very good route runner. Very productive. But that's the first 4-round draft we're covering. I'll have another one tomorrow. We'll keep running through these drafts so you're ready for your rookie draft. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.